Sometimes finding one's place in the world can be simple. Can it not? A little break. We come back. Fractionation, naturally occurring. Same thing in life. You pay attention to something, you study it, and you study it, and you go away from it. Who of you knows of Henri Poincaré? Henri Poincaré. French mathematician, physicist, the turn of the last century. A while back, over 100 years. I bring him up because he did a book on creativity in mathematics. He got curious. He's a brilliant man. Let me give you a hint of how brilliant he was. In 1897 in St. Louis, he delivered a paper on an idea he had been working on, and we're talking about the hard math of it, called relativity theory. We don't know whether some German patent clerk read this one or not. And he was also working on what's known as the three-body problem. No, this is not something that some senator would be involved in. Three-body problem actually plays out in our field because when you try, we'll talk celestial bodies before personal, okay? You try to measure celestial bodies if you've got the Earth and us, the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon, and you're trying to track the movement of three bodies. That's about the limit. The computing power you need goes way up. You've got 4 bodies, 5 bodies. So in the very same way in human communication that we do, there's the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, and there's the two of us. Well, that's suddenly 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 interacting. Things get complicated really quickly. So the idea of a model is you reduce the complexity to the point you can handle it. So we have the message and the meta-message. Now there may be a meta-message to the meta-message, but we're going to ignore that. We're going to let that go unconscious because it's too much to track. So anyway, he's working on the three-body problem, which means multiple bodies, and he works out the beginnings of chaos theory. Same guy. This is before the 20th century ever dawns. And I tell you this story not to impress you, but to impress upon you when he described how it is that he went about discovering things. He realized that he'd think about something and think about something, and he was trying to solve this problem, and he couldn't solve it. And it was summertime, and he's French, and it's August, so of course it's time to go to the south of France. And so he said, I'm going to stop thinking about this. And he just got on the bus and was going down the south of France and winding through Provence and all of the smells and the different herbs and the trees and the plains, and was driving down, having the French wine and the meals and visiting with friends, and down he goes. And he says he got down to the Côte d'Azur, that beautiful area in the south of France. He says, and as I stepped off the bus, the solution came to me in totality. I was able to sit down and write it all down. And I think each of us, though not as spectacularly perhaps, that each of us can relate to that we've solved a problem in a dream. Or we've really thought about something and then we're totally somewhere else. And by the way, this tends to happen with some song gets in your head and you don't know who the artist is. Or there's somebody you want to remind somebody of a friend that you met the other day who they would really like to know, and you can't remember. And you're off doing something else and they're not around and you go, Ricky! And it pops in at that moment. And this is about this conscious-unconscious balance. That at that moment when you were concentrating on trying to find the memory, the name, it was on that tip of your tongue, only it wasn't. It was like, right out there. And you go away and you're in a different mind, and you're in a different arrangement, and it comes right up. This is a natural example of what we're working towards, what we're doing now. Is that when we're in a certain mindset, our problems can really seem like problems. And yet, as Grinder would suggest from time to time, what if tomorrow you were going on a trip around the world? the tickets were there, everything was ready, the people you wanted to travel with were, and you were going to go and do that. Now, what's your frame of mind? How quickly an as if, because that's an as if, how quickly an as if can change our arrangement. And so in that same way, what we're doing here is finding out how by offering some different languaging, by offering some possibilities, as you so graciously suggested earlier, that idea of incorporating the outside and the inside and validating them both, how these processes can bring us to a greater ability, to that ability that Poincaré experienced as he got off the bus in the south of France. And then where you apply that and what you apply that to, well, that's up to you. Life will give you many opportunities. So before we begin this afternoon, do we have any questions regarding the new presuppositions we've added, the exercise, things that may have occurred over lunch as you were digesting some of this, and of course other sustenance? I guess you're ready. Well, guess what? This is a little bit much for the conscious mind to hang on to, don't you think? Yeah. Even though you're actually, as you learn it, you realize you're incorporating and even layering. Well, we decided to, in the interest of settling the conscious mind, giving it a sense of ease, we're going to now pass out to you crib sheets. Little cards with a little example, not the whole pattern, not the complete pattern, but a few of the words, a little few examples to tweak you, when you're not thinking of these flip charts. There's 2 pages.
You get one at a time.
You're getting 1 page at a time. There are 2 pages. 1 page will have on the front page, taking the boulder face, we'll have the holes on the right, and we'll start with organ language. The other page on the left will say presupposition ordinals. Try to make as much noise as you can. You see, I like to keep them just like this. Now, some of you may want to keep them on their pages, and some of you may want to break them into all of their smallest units. And I wonder what you think of the people that aren't doing what you're doing.
They're crazy.
They're crazy, that's right. It's so quickly we can make a judgment. And isn't it nice to know you can do it either way and both ways? I didn't say how.
They were kind enough to allow me to have 2 complete sheets in total connection.
I'm just going to wait. It's a metaphor. Sometimes you want to take things apart so you can put them together in a better way.
In a different way.
In a different way.
There is no better or worse.
For you, for today, for now, there might be a better way.
Everybody does his best.
Yeah.
In every single moment.
Yeah. Allow me to invite you to pause your ripping, shredding, and destroying for a moment. Fully and completely, Chris. And ask, do you have any questions about the exercise you saw so ably demonstrated up here? You're going to be utilizing presuppositions, adjectives, adverbs. The ly is the key feature here to pull out. You're going to be utilizing presuppositions of awareness. And of course you realize you've already been using them. You are aware. They're a natural part of language. Don't you think? You're also going to be using tag questions. One person is going to emphasize their ability to use this, another to use this, of course, continuing to fractionate. A part of you, as Monet so elegantly demonstrated, noticing their nonverbals, noticing that sigh or that breathing or that going inside. And when you see that saying, that's right. We'll try that again. And you're noticing their breathing, they breathe in. As they breathe out, you say, that's right. Yeah. Not just with me, with them, the person you're going to work with. Okay. You're going to take a request of theirs. Yeah? And you're going to help them deepen that state, go back and forth, and then you're going to suggest to them a process instruction. I've suggested a very general process instruction, something along the ideas that you can memorize that and know that it's always there for you. Something simple but lets them know you acknowledge, and they go, and they breathe, and you say, and then you say something, allow me to invite you now to gently begin to return to an outer world where you can apply these feelings in ways, you can enjoy these feelings in interactions with others, and you speed up your voice a little bit, and you bring them back out and have them look around, and you look at them and you go, hi. Or if this is them, you go, hi. And they nod, okay. And then you can have a bit of a conscious mind chat, and then, of course, cycle around to the next person. Very easy, easing into the afternoon. About 30 minutes. Let's go.
Each or total?
Total, 10 minutes apiece. This is... So I wonder how soon you discovered learning in new ways. Comments, observations, reactions?
It was much easier than before.
It was much easier than before.
Because more choices.
Because more choices. Okay, all right. Some people find it easier when you have fewer choices. Because there's fewer choices.
No, it's easier when you have more choices.
Oh, it's easier when you have more choices. Are we learning a little about a model of the world here? Well, that's part of what I want you to get, is the meta model is not a set of questions to go around alienating friends, colleagues, and other important people. You know, how specifically, who specifically, where? A meta model is a question of questions you ask yourself. Yes, yourself. You can ask them on the outside, but you don't need to. You ask yourself, you go, well, what is that person deleting? And you begin to notice their model of the world. Or what is that person generalizing? You notice their model of the world. Well, here's a whole other way of appreciating that. Now with the Milton model, you can also say, oh, I like having all these choices. Model of the world. So if you were going to offer Maya something and you wanted her to be interested, would you offer her one alternative, or two, or three, or four? Right? She likes a lot. More, exactly, yeah. So you know something about, you could do this, or you could do that, or you could do this. I'm curious to discover which one you'll choose first. And she goes, well, if you offer me enough choices, I will, but if you don't, I just want to bring that out, because as you interact with somebody and you notice that little bit of friction, that thing that you're encountering another model of the world, that's the time to take a breath and go, wow, new learnings. Because if you can listen in at that moment, you'll find that that person is using different language patterns than you. Not that the language patterns equal the experience, but that there's some sort of a correspondence. That if the person has a rich internal world and wants lots of choices, then that's the way they're going to talk, for the most part. And if somebody else wants to get on the highway and go for the success along one path that they've chosen, well, you're going to hear that in the language too. Short, crisp sentences, They even leave out the subject because they don't have time. They have to go, let's go. They won't even say who, you know. So this phenomenon of language, all these possibilities.
I also discovered an interesting thing. We all have sort of an inner voice that always talk. I think by mastering this language gives a culture to talk intelligently with the inner voice anytime we want and silent it anytime we don't want to talk to it, because this is the language inner voice talks. For me, at least.
How many of you have an inner voice? Of course, yes.
Everybody has.
In fact, we may even have more than one.
I have one.
You have one, okay. That's not enough choice.
It's changing.
I mean, have you ever had an argument with somebody all the way home and they weren't there? Well, I mean, they were, but not physically. And another thing. And you win the argument. Well, then did you ever go back and try it out on the outside? Maya does suggest something very interesting, which is, what if you began to use some of these language patterns with your internal dialogue? Nothing like, You already?
I realized I had already done it.
Oh, yeah. And as I say, it doesn't, I'm going to strike that. What it offers is an opportunity to expand who you already are. We're very familiar with ourselves. We're not going to forget in the morning who we are. And yet we can, after a while, change. You started out as something so small, you could be held in somebody's arms. And then you were little, getting in, running around, and they had to put stuff up high to keep you away from it. And you got a little older, and you discovered the world beyond your own home. And you began to question, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? And in all these ways, you grew and changed, and then suddenly you discovered you were a sexual creature. That there was this whole other world opening up. That the idea of a family and children and to do what you saw your parents do wasn't dolls anymore, wasn't pretend. For some of you, even that, there may be that you're grandparents now. And this whole flow, and somehow, through all of that, we feel like we're ourselves. Isn't that amazing? And we're all this and we're so much more. The people we remember, the people that affected us, all of these are resources to us. The feelings of discovery we had when we were splashing in the water. So Erickson would often take people back to those early experiences and remind them of a time when the world felt very new and it was full of possibilities, because he believed that and experienced that to the end of his long life. But wait.
There's more.
These patterns can go on, and what we want to do is give you a complete enough set so that you can notice more, so that you can interact with the way things really are. A very curious thing here, organ language. Fritz Perls was the one that really talked about this. You probably won't even know who he is. He was I'd say he was an old hippie, but he started out as a serious young man, a medical student, a German medical student, at that. Then psychoanalysis, and he studied to be a psychoanalyst, and they didn't certify him as a psychoanalyst. And he had a polarity response you could drive a truck through, and he said, oh, yeah? Then I'll invent my own psychotherapy. And he's the founder of Gestalt therapy, based on the principles of Gestalt. That is that things come in a completeness. That is that earlier you got hungry, and then you satisfied your hunger, so there's the hunger and then the completeness. And the experiences you've been having with each other also have the form of a Gestalt, that you go in and you get the experience, you memorize it, and you have it, you come back out, sense of completeness. Well, Fritz Perls noticed early on that people would say, oh, that person's a pain in the neck. Or it strains me to talk about it. Or they'd say, I got to put my foot down. And in each of these, you've got an anchor. You've got, as we had with Chris, an example of where you can go right in whether the person gestures at it, or Chris says, I want to get a grip on things, and I'm only using you, Chris, because you're available as an example, but up here earlier we had a demonstration about the security, remember, and about having your feet securely on the ground. Ooh, that was a nice touch. Because when you can take the person's experience and relate it, then it's right there for them. So these come in two kinds. One references the actual part of the body. So you have a lot of heart, pain in the neck, my head's out of kilter or something. It's a gut feeling, put my foot down. And the other are activities that are around these bodily parts. So getting a grip, the sigh. I choked on that, somebody might say. Not all these are positive. That's why I want to note this. But still, they're giving you a lot of information to work with. They might say, I felt a release. Like that, some sort of thing. And again, this is just a selection to begin. Now, what this does in a way, because it's a different kind of language, it marks it, doesn't it? The sense that if somebody uses a body part, then I could really eyeball that. And you go, the eyes are pretty important. You might want to talk about seeing and clarity and getting a good view of, and utilize words like that. It's marked out. It's a marked message. What is a marked message? It's something, I'm being very obvious again for the person's demonstration. Remember when I had you doing fractionation? Marked messages. So you could say to the person, and you've got a conscious mind, and you've got an unconscious mind. And and Erickson at the end, he's like, but you want to go a little bigger first, know that you're doing it. And what Erickson would do would be to mark out words in a sentence he wanted the people to pay attention to. Now, I'm going loud, because that's our culture. How many of you have noticed that advertisements on television are louder than the rest of the shows? Right. So you could actually trick the thing around, and it works just as well, that what's really important in this course is that you learn. And then people strain forward to listen. So marking out doesn't necessarily mean being louder. It means different than the rest of the communication. Marking out can be done with your body as well as your voice tone or your head movement. This is what speakers do, when they make an emphatic point, when they gesture broadly, and you bring some sort of analog of the body to the words that you use. Now, once again, we do this naturally. Happens all the time. People come running up and they go, Dana, don't panic! And you're like, okay. Or even worse, it's going, I hope Dana doesn't panic. Right? They get soft and you go, uh-oh. Again, it's a form of marking out. Of course, you can use it the other way around. You can use it to emphasize what it is, to emphasize a connection in terms of the verbs, and when you're using the fractionation. It's a way of deepening the message, making it more layered. A way to have some fun with this, too. Erickson was always having fun with this stuff. Now, I don't know if you know what you don't know. But you don't know what you know. I know. Don't you?
No.
Now you've got to go going, This has to do with the idea of ambiguity. You're trying to sort out the ambiguity. And the kind of ambiguity I was just using, if that rings a bell, I love the Danny DeVito scene, where he grabs the phone from the guy and goes, yeah, she's here, she's with me. So it'd be... We can delete that. Okay. Patience and patience. The one that I love from my own training was back when there was a certain airline, and this airline was called Trans World Airlines. And you'd go to the place where you get off, and you go through the entrance of the airport, and then you'd be walking down the tunnel of the airport, down and down, and through another entrance, until you could turn to get on Trans World Airlines. Now, work. It's a phonological ambiguity. You can use words that are similar to each other, and the person has to try and work out the meaning. And of course, while they're trying to do that consciously, you can be going, while a part of you is making sense, a part of you knows it's sensible to relax. In trance, World Airlines. Just give one more here, and this is more just to let you know what's possible than it is something that you're going to want to practice. This is another kind of fractionation. It's called punctuation ambiguity. So I got up this morning and I was rushing and getting stuff, and I realized that I didn't have my watch, the finger, as it leads towards this other sentence. So you take watch and you take watch and you jump from one sentence to another. Yes, it's a punctuation ambiguity. And what you're doing is you're changing the meaning of something in the middle. Erickson could do this in person, and actually I think maybe the first example, because he wrote about it, is when he was still able to walk, and he was on his way to a meeting, and he turns the corner of a building, and he runs into this guy, and a big guy, and a boom, and Erickson, being the playful guy he was, and with a lot of flexibility, he looks at his watch and says, "It's 2:30," and then walks off and looks back. Well, you see, it was 5:30, and here's the guy still standing there. Because there'd been a slippage between the first experience and the second experience. I say it's a kind of fractionation. Is this making any sense? Doesn't have to. Yes, right. Yeah.
Can you give a couple more examples of this?
Well, it would be like, take my, hand it to you that you would ask such a question. Take my hand it to you that you would ask such a question. So it's any time those things both slip. Now, this is where you begin to get into something called confusion technique, where I say, now there's 3 things to remember. The second one is, and so it begins, you go, wait a minute, what about the first one? And you're still thinking about the first one. Yeah? And I go, watch what you, that's a nice, yeah. Okay. What are we going to do this time? This time, we're going to let it all out. This time, we're going to release all those inner coughs and sneezes. This time, they're going to dream a dream. So you've got all these other patterns, and come on up. I liked what you were doing there. Now, this time also, we're going to invite the person to separate the hands and keep the legs from being crossed, because we want all of the information that goes from one part of the brain to the other, across the corpus callosum, to be linguistically performed. Because if he does this, then he can do it through the other part of the body. So you want the languaging to go to both ways. So something that Erickson often do is have the person just sit quietly. Yeah. Get a grip. Okay, now, before we begin, is there anything that you'd like to have, to be more resourceful about, to get a new answer to? This is what really is kind of a question this time. It's like something you'd... That's right. You see my hands in trance? Okay.
Like more security.
More security. It's not enough of it to go around. Wait, we'll make more. And a couple people up here to assist in this process. I'm looking around, I'm looking around, I'm looking around. Who could we get? Who would be interested? Oh, it's the afternoon effect.
I'll sign up.
Tom, thank you very much.
I'll be brave.
All right. Judy?
Okay.
Thank you. Allow me to invite you to find a place close by. Yeah, somebody bring a chair up.
May I change my goal?
You can change your mind. Haven't you?
Yes. I'd like more strength, please.
More strength. Okay. So, what other kind of things go along with strength and even security?
Confidence,
Confidence,
drive,
drive,
preparedness,
preparedness,
groundedness,
groundedness,
efficiency.
efficiency. Now, also, you saw him doing this. You're going to pick up a little of that at some point. That's a natural anchor for him. So you've got the words, because I was interrupting, you've got groundedness, efficiency, confidence.
Curiosity.
Okay? No, not curiosity. That's why I want to listen in. Feel free to crib. You know, pieces of paper are just fine.
That works really well for me.
Well, we understand it works really well for you. That's a very good learning to have. You find, I would be really curious if I wanted to develop more. But no, this doesn't work. So what's the word?
Strength.
Strength. You hear how he says it, too. Okay. And over here, Tom, you got the idea of organ language. And you can pretend you've already met this person before and you know that there's things about the stomach, there's things about getting a grip, and he also does kind of a wiggle thing, you know. I don't know if he calls it a wiggle. No.
More of a nodding.
Processing.
Processing, yeah, okay. And over here, Judy, you've got the different kinds of phonological ambiguity, kind of tough, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, as one comes in, you'll know. No?
What was the first part of that sentence?
I said, as one comes in, you'll know. No? Yeah. In the meantime, if you're in this role, feel free to fall back on, to lean into fractionation, causal modeling, marking messages. Here we get into everybody gets to mix it up, all right? Doing everything. And once he goes down and in, and he's really beginning to experience that, what is it? Strength, good. Then you're going to invite him to dream a dream of integration. Dream a dream of integration.
Drive is good.
And in this dream,
Thank you.
he doesn't know, as in you don't know all the things that are happening. And you know they are. And you may not be aware of all the changes that are possible, even as they continue. And you may see images, and they use the word strength, drive, efficiency. And dream a dream, unconscious time, a minute of clock time, all the time in the world for your unconscious mind. And then you let him dream the dream of integration for a minute. And you look at your watch. And you may... Then again, some people just jump right in. So, I'm going to back off now. Let you have a few moments with your friend there. Okay? So, starting with the outside, going towards the inside.
Why are you in this place that is so strong for you? You will notice portions of your body where you'll find greater strength. a place where you'll find that as a resource for that vitality.
And the energy is moving up and becoming stronger as your breathing becomes slower.
That's right. As and while these effects are happening for you, you'll be able to integrate that energy that you're experiencing now.
And with this energy, you're feeling stronger and more powerful. Yet there are moments when you wonder whether you can maintain this. But you will be able to maintain this strength.
And you'll have the strength with you now, and you'll have the strength with you in the future.
And that drive toward this strengthening place will continue.
And you'll connect this strength, and you'll be able to develop it, and you'll be able to remember it, and you'll be able to solve what that will be for you in the future.
And I wonder as you're feeling this sensation and it's becoming stronger and more profound, what else is unfolding inside of yourself?
And allow yourself to let that envelop you, to let it surround you.
That's
Give it
right.
a color. Experience that moment.
And as you're in this trance, you will be entering into a new place that you had not experienced before with even greater strength than ever before. That's right.
Okay. And they would go on in this way, and they would wonder about the growing and developing feelings. Where is that drive? And as that drive goes, how quickly or how slowly will it grow to thoroughly envelop and develop within and around you? And on like this, and on like this, until it's filled with strength. And you can see as he breathes in, that's right. And this is only an abbreviated version. You'll be able to visit this more deeply. And when he does, they would have turned to him and said, and now dream a dream of integration. An unconscious, conscious dream of images and feelings and ideas. 1 minute of clock time, all the time in the world for your unconscious mind. And when they turn, if they really want to do the Erickson kind of thing, they can both turn at the same time, say, now. And depending on the person you're working with, some like the silence, some others they like to hear just kind of whispered strength, drive, efficiency, integration. That's right. a time in the world to experience this which is so deeply important to you. The reclaiming of experiences. Getting in touch with things long past. And when you're ready, and as you decide to, you can either come back here, or you can sink deeper into a restful center, a place inside. It's there too. Time, safety, security, wrapped around you like an old blanket. That's right. We all have places where we feel safe. Where we can go and wonder. We can feel close to ourselves, close to our heart's desire. I don't know what that is for you, but I do know that you know how to go deeper into Chris. That's right. And acknowledge him. And realize how much he depended on you. And how much he was right to depend on you. And it isn't lucky. It's wise. To know a deep security inside. To know that all of you matters. And I wonder in what way you're going to embrace that. You might slowly put your arms around it. You might quickly let your thoughts dart by. You might just begin to connect the dots, the places in the past, in whatever way you decide to do that. Whatever ways you do and don't are all a part of you, are they not? So allow me to invite you to begin a journey with all of your learnings, with all of those feelings, back to this time and place. Where you're going to get a different kind of acknowledgement when you open your eyes. You're going to realize the world isn't what it was, but what it is. Okay, show him some friendly primate, okay? Now, I invited you up here. And that took some sense that there was security here. And you got through the experience. And that's a strength you're going to have from now on.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. Not everyone needs to get as deep a change as Chris got. Sometimes you might see people have a deep sigh. See a lot of eye movements like he did. Some of you might resonate this experience.
Thank you.
I want you to see in this tableau that this is experience. People have it, and they do have the resources to get through it. It's a sense that, we're very fragile creatures. Well, we are when we lose touch with our resources within and with the resources between us that we share, that we bring to each of these groups. That's why the integrity of these is so important to us. I'm pleased to let you just stay with what you have and also offer the opportunity to speak if you want to. Either way is completely all right with me.
Okay.
You just let me know.
Yeah. Well, it took me someplace I was not expecting to go.
Yeah, it's clear.
And as I went deeper into a gathered sense of drive and strength, I imagined it was quite a violent picture. It was a survival. I realized that in requesting for that, I was requesting for more survival energy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's been I have a strong sense of drive, and I realized through what I went through that it's what's brought me here and what's kept me alive. And so it brought me first just a warp speed into the future, and knowing that I have that, and I was in a race car or whatever, and there were red colors, white, black, green, and orange, and yellow, and really stark colors, and I was racing and just moving, and I went right into the future, and then I think as I looked down, I realized that it was a flashback, and I saw all the times in the past where I had I had needed that drive and used that drive and fought through difficult times, and that's, I think, when I started to visibly show that I was going through something important, and it just,
Take your time. And you understand what we've been doing is that this is re-accessing the experience. And there's a certain delicacy here, and I know you're all dying to know what happened, and there's a whole other sense, thank you, and there's another sense in which we just might let him just stay with the experience himself. I think that the biggest thing that would be helpful to everyone would be to know whether that was a worthwhile experience you just had.
right now I'm not in a place of great ease. I still have a large amount of kinesthetic emotion going through me. But somehow it's cracked my shell, I guess, and just let me know how difficult things have been, and that by coming here, I'm going deeper than I had expected. And I didn't really know that I could get any deeper because I am so internal, and I do I consider myself to be fairly mature, and I feel that I've experienced so much, and I have a sense of deep spirituality, but this is bringing it to a deeper level still. And I do believe that it was the reason behind my resistance yesterday in learning this material. Because I guess I tend to operate a lot in my drive mode as a means of survival.
So that's been an important discovery for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's a funny thing in the not funny sense is that people tend to ask for more of what they already have.
Yeah.
You know, if they've got strength, more strength will solve the problem. Or if it's cleverness, more cleverness will solve the problem. Or if it's money, more money will solve the problem, whatever it is. And I want you to know that my sense of it is you have a profound learning that was offered to you, that you've got the strength, you've got the drive, you saw that, and also you've discovered you're so much more. And maybe that drive is a smaller bit of you, and maybe these other aspects of you can begin in their own tender way to express themselves more in ways that will surprise and delight you. Okay, I'll give you your privacy. Thank you so much. Let's take a short break, about 10 minutes, and take questions, and then we'll do a process ourselves. Thank you. Well, I don't even think I need to ask if there's any comments, observations, or reactions, so why don't we just get to them? Ricardo.
Something that Masuda said, maybe you were talking to her about it, but I didn't pay attention or didn't connect. When you're in a situation like that, I tend to
You see the
connect,
the heart? Yeah.
to connect. And if I was helping in the situation, I probably wouldn't have been able to. I'm not sure. How can I tend to get into second person.
Yeah, I was thinking there's something in the perceptual positions here, because I saw a number of you kind of slide over and join Chris in some way. And old hypnotist I worked with calls that tailgating. And it is a way to get some change, without actually having to pay for the session. And in that sense, it can be beneficial. In another sense, if you're supposed to be the person assisting, then the idea of being able to understand that you are two members of a system at that point, because certainly Chris wouldn't have gone where he went without the safety and security of the people that were here helping him, who both did, I thought, an excellent job of being there, supporting him, and if you don't mind my noticing, didn't use that much of the linguistic patterning. And this comes back again to the very first morning about the quality of the voice tone, the quality of the relationship. And then, at least if you talk to Steve Andreas about it, this kind of languaging is more like greasing the system. I think there's a lot more to it than that, but I bring up this point simply because if you're there with the person and you offer things in the form of suggestions and possibilities, if If you speak as we did in generalities, it goes right back here. Generalities and permissions and possibilities, then they will begin to connect things in new ways. And in Chris's case, part of him decided, well, now's the time, and he really went for it. And the thing at that point is, how can you be part of that and continue to be with him? Right. Part of that is about sorting out your perceptual positions. That there is really you, and you're here, and you feel yourself, and then there's that person over there. And something may resonate a lot with what they're up to. And you may get teary-eyed as well. And yet you also know that if you just keep going, that it'll be feedback. Remember the elements, remember the themes. That there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. It goes all the way back to the unuseful nominalizations, which I thank my staff here for developing, is that depression, learning disability, stupid, evil, neuroses, syndrome, paranoia, all of those things. How do you help somebody get over paranoia? Well, they say they can, but you're trying to cure the person of a label. And this young man here who was brave enough to do this, had the strength to do it, he was having an experience. Tearing up, obviously something important. Just being with him and continuing that feedback and saying to notice what you're experiencing, be aware of what you're experiencing. And very much like I did with Sudha, we could have gone on, and what other things can you experience? And what's like that? And as you continue in the NLP training, you'll get more specific techniques. And I largely tied my hands behind my back and didn't do techniques because I want you to know what's possible just doing this. Just being with the person and affirming and acknowledging the experience. Because that's normalizing it. That's giving a sense that it is okay to have these feelings. How many rules have any of us been told about don't feel this, don't do that, don't act that way, don't laugh like that? All these different, well, maybe not you, but a lot of people get these different, a lot of people get these different kind of things set on them. And we went in like a race car away from that in life to find our own mission, our own strength. We get away from our family of origin or the kids that mistreated us in school or something like that. And those memories are still back there. And in a sense, they're fractionated away. And at a certain point, when we have the strength, when we have the ability, when we have the maturity, we want to integrate. And this process invited that possibility, and this young man went for it. He says, yeah. And in that sense, all you need to do is be there and continue to acknowledge, and you can have these experiences, and you're so much more. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Now you get to do it. Can't wait to. No, there's a lot of ways to have the experience, and for a lot of people, I know you're going to go out to your group and you're just going to go in and it's going to change, and it's not going to be very much, and you're going, oh, nothing very much is happening. It's spinning around, and that'll be fine too, because each of you has your own experience. And each of you has integrations that would be wonderful for you to achieve. And that'll each be up to the both of you of where to go and how far to go in each of these moments. And so keep in mind the overall frame. The overall frame is that of learning, that of exercising, that of now we've gotten to the point where we're going, all the language patterns. All the language patterns. And that means the nominalizations they use. That means the causal modeling, the unspecified verbs, the unspecified nouns. It means the presuppositions. and the other patterns we were just playing with. And just take a breath, begin to match the breathing of the person, and they give their request, and then you just play gently at inviting them to relax, and go inside, and associate more and more with those experiences. When they get in there with whatever it is, whether it's contentment or spirituality or sense of relaxation or centeredness or whatever it is that they would like more of, then you can say, and now dream a dream of integration all the time in the world for your unconscious mind. 1 minute of clock time, or some variation of that. You've heard me do it several different ways now, so you know there's no set way of doing it. And then you can turn and go, now. And just sit with the person, and you've got their breathing, and they go, and you say, that's right. And it may seem like a silly thing, but remember, you're affirming. So I was just saying about acknowledging and affirming that, yeah, go ahead, have that experience. We're here with you. And you can do that integration. And when they come back out, and gently invite them out afterwards. And you know what you could do when they come back out? You can look at them and go, what's your favorite ice cream? And they might even say, I don't even like ice cream. I want to acknowledge what Tom Collins did is that when Chris was ready to really join the external world, he said, wait, it was great. What did you say about this? He said,
Oh, I noticed the hummingbirds. They're great. And then there's a hummingbird on that side.
and he starts pointing out the hummingbirds. Well, what is that? It's a break state. But it's not just a break state. It's just, that's what I'm saying. There's a subtlety condition here I want to point out that we all can learn from. Is then if you're outside, you have the person lift their eyes up and say, you know, what part of that scenery do you like best? So that you can bring them out and have them associate the inside with the outside. I think one of the learnings, I'm just going to say something because we're in a learning situation, that for Chris, where somebody wants strength, they think about what is strength. It's all internal, isn't it? It's like muscle, it's something you've got to do. And a learning that he can never undo now is that when he opened his eyes, he saw all of your concerned eyes on him. And he could realize in an undeniable way that strength is not only within him, but all around him. And in those of you that went up and hugged him, there's another way you affirmed connection, which is another kind of strength. And so all these learnings happen whether we plan on them or not. And the thing is, with this kind of a skill, you can begin to nudge them in the direction that they're happening more in the ways that cause us all to thrive. So, Chris.
Just coming into your conversation about integration, that's when my head went down, and every single situation from my past where I had wanted strength and drive came up, and it was really amazing, and it gave me like a renovation of my foundation.
Yeah. Let it settle a little bit now. You have a new foundation. Yeah. And I want to take from that, he said every moment, because the unconscious mind, after 1, 2, so we're using both capacities here. We're not saying one's better than the other one. We're saying we're going to help a rearrangement, a new integration that will serve you better.
It was light speed.
Yeah. Light speed. Wouldn't expect anything less from you. All right. So I'd say new groups of 3. If you want to mix it up a little bit here. And what you saw, you want to get in close. And you want to do this. And the thing is, if you're in these positions, it's about the practice. Take your cards with you. Take your sheets with you. Take your 3x5 cards with you. Play with different patterns. Notice the feedback you get. You'll surprise yourself. And if you're here, then just enjoy the ride, or the journey, or the going to that special place inside, and all of those and more. We have our assisting staff will be around. If you need us, you can allow a hand to rise. All right? All right, let's go. I love nonverbal communication.
Give it to me.
That's pain.
Did you see the recent remake of The Razor's Edge, starring?
I didn't like the remake of it. I love the original.
Yeah, the original. Yeah.
Yeah, the remake.
Well, The Razor's Edge concerns a young man who goes through war experiences and comes out from them realizing he's confronted what does life mean, because he's almost killed in the First World War. And so instead of taking the career path of being the wealthy kid, which he was, and going into family business, he goes off to Tibet, and he goes all over the place and meets different teachers, and ends up in the Tibetan mountains, and then comes back to England, and ends up assisting another family, and it's this coin, and he has the person take the coin in their hand, and ask them, how long they can hold the coin between the count of 10, and then they release the coin unconsciously. And he says, how did I do that? And he says, you did that, meaning the unconscious mind. And now you're going to do something else. And he helps this guy rethink his life. And I only bring that up to say that as you explore this kind of work, you're going to find connections to meditative practices. You're going to find connections to imagery, visualization practices. You're going to find connections to somatic kinds of practices, whether it's Aikido or body movement or types of therapy. Because if you think about it, those are all different maps of the same territory, which is our mind, our body, our connection with others, the spirit worlds we live in. And this is one way to understand those worlds. I want to remind you, NLP is a model. It has the status of a model, not the territory. Each of us is within us and between us and around us, the territory. And this is one set of descriptors using language and anchors and so forth. We find it very useful, and I hope you do too. And you'll go out into the world and find many more that are also useful in connecting in their ways. And with that kind of preface, I'm wondering what connections you made in the last exercise, either in your learnings, in this course, or the learnings on the inside. Blair?
Just quite strikingly how powerful it is to feed back to people the normalizations that they give you initially, that instead of thinking that's what my interpretation of what's close to that, using those exact words that they use, it made a big difference.
A big difference.
Yeah.
So big a difference, there's an entire school of therapy founded on it called active listening. That Carl Rogers, the basis of his work is that people are not heard. They're not acknowledged. That the relationships and connections aren't noticed. And so, yeah, does make a huge difference.
Well, my interpretation of what's really close doesn't fit for them.
Yeah, what's really close, you go, oh, that's just like, no. It's their magic words. Yeah. Ricardo.
Matt did a wonderful thing. He really paced my breathing audibly. I mean, I could hear him breathing, and that just took me down.
Yeah, again, it's that invitation. You're saying, come on in. Come on in, the water's fine. It's good in here. Yeah.
But what to do if, like what happened to me now, if I get successful, I get somebody into the trance, and they find themselves in a dark place and a blockage like me, and develop a horrible headache.
Or he did develop a horrible headache. Okay. Don't be too suggestive.
Okay.
It's part of it is to go with, right? Is where does the person you're talking to, working with, want to go? Contrast that with the opposite of what most of us see. Again, my experiences happen out in the real world, so I'm in the Safeway, I'm in the grocery store, and the child's being pulled along, and I don't want to go, and it's more like, go. And the parent looks and goes, you're not angry, you're tired. This is attribution. The kid's going to grow up. When he gets angry, he's going to get tired. I don't know why. I'm feeling depressed. As opposed to go with, and I've seen other parents do that, is the kids go, and it's quite cute to see this, and some kid goes, and the parent goes, why not? Real life use of this stuff, and you engage. And we're not saying that therefore the parent should always agree with the child, but the willingness to engage the process and find out where it goes. In your case, you said, I want to get out of this. And so we found ways to get out of it, which, quite frankly, one of the most centering things you can do with someone, and Virginia Satir did it all the time, is to touch... Ricardo, you're right there. Come on up. So Virginia Satir, when she would work with somebody, and she wanted them to be present, that is externally, want to be here right now and not be going away like you, she'd be like this, People start wondering about the wandering hands.
Where are we going?
Yeah. But the person would be in their body, and they would be present, right? And another way, of course, you can do that is to have the person touch themselves in a socially appropriate area. So if you wanted somebody to be centered, say, Ricardo, just put your hand over your heart there for a moment. Yeah. And what am I doing? See? It's anchoring, but not only anchoring just in the sense you've understood it, but it's a kinesthetic. It's like pay attention, especially if I socially appropriate again and permission in the culture. If I were to go like that, and just be in your body there, and that'll bring the person back to the present. So you've always got the feedback loop going on. So what I'm suggesting, and taking your question seriously, is you go with the client. If they're like they want to go into it, and they go, no, I want to explore this, then you're there. And your security, and you offer the suggestions, and you can do this, and you don't have to do this. You might want to do something else. Remember the possibilities, the idea of presenting possibilities. And if they said, I want some assistance out of this, whether they actually say that verbally, or they go, I don't like this experience, bring them back to the present, right? Or, to take it to further perceptual positions, would be like, well, stand up here. Step out of that. And see yourself over there? Mm-hmm. Okay, now, what I want you to do is, and step out even further. Come on, just say, now, you watch, is he getting a little paler, a little less movement, breathing is less, right? Observer position. Seeing himself over there? Is that hypnotic activity? Well, yes, it is. This is what I'm saying. The NLP stuff is a mixed state. So that, now see yourself over there, even more clearly. Are you more aware of the blue, the gray, or that handsome head?
The carpet, actually.
The carpet, wow, All right, and then step back in. And then you can breathe yourself, touch him lightly. That brings the person back to the present. Now, I want you, from this little bit of demonstrating, what I'm getting at here is not something you haven't already learned, perceptual positions. But you can begin to understand perceptual positions do go with the idea of this hypnosis. The idea that he doesn't actually see himself over there, but if you think you see yourself over there, then you're going to visualize yourself over there, and you're going to feel disconnected, and that creates a certain state. Or if you want to be in the moment, to be fully present, yeah? Or how about that guy over there, that handsome guy? What would it be like to be him? Well, why don't you go be him? Thank you very much. So utilization of the stuff you've already learned and realizing how it weaves together with this material. Any other questions or reactions?
It's okay with Maya. I would like to know what she wanted more of.
No, it's not all right with me.
Okay.
I do want to respect people's privacy in terms of this because really it's about the process. And if she wants to share with you privately, they'll leave it up to her. And it's all right to ask. It's always ask questions.
I just think it's interesting. It's week 2, and this part is the hypnosis part. But if you think back to last week in the circle of excellence and new behavior, I mean, you're imagining all this stuff and you're hallucinating all this stuff that's going on, but there was no label of hypnosis on it.
And so that makes it all right.
Yeah.
And that's about that's about pacing worlds. If some client, doesn't want hypnosis, then I said, well, let's just do a little visualization. Because really that's what you're doing. and the person can get the effect. And it's not that I'm tricking them, mind you, because you can think of it as visualization, and that's not an inaccurate way to think about it. Now, I had a request earlier, and it has to do with different forms of how we deliver this. You've noticed this is very, what Erickson would call its utilization, what's going on, and it's very permissive. It's you could do this, you could do that. There are more directive forms of hypnosis. You will stop smoking. You will stop smoking. You will stop smoking. Why do I keep thinking about smoking? Language patterns are tricky. There's also something called affirmations. And some of you may have tried these, and they can work in different ways. Here's my take on it, and why it fits into this, is that what is an affirmation? You're supposed to look in a mirror, and you look in the mirror and you go, "You're fantastic." Yeah. Excuse me a moment. "You're fantastic." Yeah. And if you're in neutral about your emotions, your thoughts, your behavior, that'll work. Because if there isn't in conflict and you deliver this verbal message, you can begin to build up that representation, and that feeds back into you. And so in that sense, that's my sense that they work. On the other hand, I know people who've gone, "You're fantastic." Yeah, right. And I have another voice that pops in. And then the two voices can get into it, right? And this is where later on in reframing, you're going to learn some stuff that you can do with this, ways that you can negotiate these. It was Tony Robbins who noticed that people would have a sense of affirmation going, "You're fantastic, you're fantastic," and their body, "You're fantastic," and by the end of the day they go, "I'm exhausted." And he was the one that brought up the importance of state, about getting yourself in a resourceful state. Then you're fantastic. Well, what you're doing, the state, the thoughts, the external behavior, putting it together. Once again, there are easier ways to do that. And I've suggested here in the terms of integration that instead of it being something outside yourself, that within you, it's already there. Instead of it having to be something that you tell yourself, because it's like it's not there, you're programming the unconscious, Ericksonian hypnosis says the answer is within. You wouldn't want to know to be fantastic or centered or contented or curious or any of these others if there wasn't some part of you that was already beginning to develop that ability that was within you that you wanted to have more of. And I wonder how soon you'll be able to find that in your dreams tonight, in a moment on the walk home, in the eyes of the next person you speak to, that a little of that grows and develops into a feeling, into a possibility, into a future you hadn't expected, but you're delighted to receive. It's a gentler way. And maybe it happens tonight, and maybe tomorrow, and maybe you have to go out and find it. But whatever way it happens, it's with you already. Is that this is not something you do to yourself or do to other people. It's creating the conditions.